Yeah, there you go. ENTV today. I'm really excited to be bringing an interview to you with Patricia White or Pat White. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to take my recorder out of the video here, and we're going to be talking about some very enjoyable things today because Dr. Patricia White is an animal lover. Actually, you know what, Patricia? Do you go by Patricia or Pat? What do you prefer?
That is good.
Pat
That
is
is,
good. Okay.
uh-huh.
How do you introduce yourself when? Yeah.
How do I introduce myself? Well, I tell people that my name is Dr. Pat White. I'm a veterinarian, a veterinary specialist, a veterinary dermatologist, a small business owner, and a deep transformations and clarity coach. So I've been a coach for about 15 years plus. I've been a veterinarian for 40 years plus. And yeah, and so what I've done is I've transitioned out of practicing veterinary medicine. I'll be a veterinarian for the rest of my life, but I've transitioned out of my practice into coaching full time.
What is
And
that like then? Because like to go from you were a dermatologist for animals, so
yeah,
like skin. Okay, I got so many questions about that. But what's it like to go from that to caring for animals to caring for people?
it's no different, honestly, because as a veterinarian, at least for me as a veterinarian, um, animals don't bring themselves into the practice, right? They're brought in by people, by humans that are going through their individual human journey. And I think what made it so enjoyable to me was the connection with people. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy asking questions and trying to get to the real meat of the issue. And being able to help people with their pets meant to me really understanding what they wanted, what they needed. So I can diagnose and treat, but if I ask you to do something that you can't do for whatever reason, then I'm wasting both of our time. So coaching
Oh,
was actually a lot of what I did as a veterinarian. So it wasn't that big of a leap, honestly.
yeah, we got to ask about the animals because you got Thelma in the background there with you. What kind of cat is Thelma?
Thelma is, what kind of cat are you, Thelma? Thelma is a domestic long hair, which is fancy word for non breed specific or mutt. But she's a street urchin. She and her sister were brought to me. Their umbilical cord was still attached. I do not know what happened to Mom Kitty, but somebody brought these 2-day-old kittens into my practice, and I raised them both by hand. And I didn't think either one was going to make it, truthfully, because it was the first time in my entire career, now 11 years ago, she's 11, that I had raised a kitten that young. But they both made it. Her sister is just as gorgeous as she is, but she looks like a seal point Siamese. So they look completely different. Thelma's a tabby colored cat, and her sister is a seal point colored cat. But they lived in the clinic, I guess, for 2 years, and they were Thelma and Louise.
That's adorable. So
Yeah,
what was it like being a veterinarian and one that I didn't even know there's a dermatologist veterinarian.
yeah.
So what was it like being a veterinarian? What was it like working on skin of all the different animals, like horses, cows?
Yeah, well, you get to learn about all the species, including humans, when you're going through your training journey. So I I identified dermatology as a specialty after I graduated. It wasn't something that I was exposed to at the time that I went through veterinary school, because the specialty, I think when I went through veterinary school, the specialty wasn't a specialty, and then it developed through internal medicine and then separated away from internal medicine. But I loved all of it. I always wanted to be a veterinarian. I cannot remember a time that I didn't. And my parents always encouraged me to do and be whatever I wanted to be. So I was very lucky to have those types of parents. And So I got to live my dream. Honestly, I remember when I opened my practice, becoming a specialist requires beyond veterinary school training. You do an internship, you do a residency, you take an exam, and then they give you, a certificate and some letters to say that you're a specialist. But, it takes additional time. So by the time I got to Atlanta and opened my practice, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe people are paying me to do what I would probably do for free if I had to. I mean, I love it so much. It's something that gets into your very tissue. And you know when you're meant to do something because it happens. It doesn't happen for you easily. You have to work to get it, but the work seems like, well, the work seems like work. I'm not going to lie about that, but you get to that place, and while you're going through the process, it's enjoyable, it's fun. And
Yeah.
even now I continue to learn. So I guess I'm a lifelong learner anyway, but you learn as you do. When you're a healer, what you've learned to do are really tools. You have the ability to see that there's a problem, and then you go to school and you learn the things you need to learn to be able to do what's innate, to do that well. So that might sound crazy to some people that are listening, but I get to do my passion. I get to live my passion by doing veterinary medicine. I get to live my passion by being a coach. So
Mm.
I've taken the time and the energy to really explore what's important to me. I know what my values are, and I think that's how I got off track a little bit during the early part of building my practice. Is I got separated from what was truly important, and that was the reason why things weren't feeling right and weren't working out right. But when I circled back around and got really clear about what that was, everything sort of fell back into place. And so that's part of what my coaching is about. Because
Values.
that time during my uh, entrepreneurial process of building my veterinary dermatology referral practice, there was a period of time where I was very unhappy, even though on the outside I was very successful. And success can be measured a variety of ways. So folks, by the number of clients you have, by how much money you make, by how much notoriety you have, all of those things. But those weren't the things that were really, really, really important to me. So I was building it and it was growing, but it wasn't what I wanted. And to be able to know that those two things don't have to be equal unless you make sure that they are, that was the growth, that was a process that I had to grow through. And it was painful. It was difficult. And I didn't know. I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And so, my desire is to assist. And that you add on to it that I'm a woman and I'm a Black woman being in business and in a profession that doesn't have many people who look like me. You add that on, and it ain't the sissies.
Well, you're clearly not a sissy. So how come you didn't make that an excuse? I'm a Black woman. I'm a Black woman. How come you knew not to make that an
That
excuse?
can't be an excuse. Well, and I will, if they're Black women professionals that are listening to me, those are the people that I especially like to assist, because they're like me. We are driven, and failure isn't an option. That's not even in our vocabulary. It's not even something that we consider. And so, I sort of attack the problem the way I attack an unusual patient that came into my practice. And, I was like, I've never seen this before. I'm really not sure, how do I approach it? How do I get, but I know that there's something wrong. How do I get to a diagnosis so that I can fix it? So I kind of approached my situation that way. And it ended up opening up an amazing journey for me. It was a spiritual journey, honestly. It was about reconnecting with who I am as a person, who I am authentically, and how I want the world to experience me. You know, that all of the things that are associated with being a Black woman in business, and the microaggressions and the misogynoir and the, you know, looking over your shoulder and having to make an explanation for why you're in the room when you know you deserve to be there 10 times over, you know, that you have absolutely done all the work and there is no question, and yet someone still questions your presence. All of that could potentially make you want to quit. And, you know, for me, quitting wasn't an option. And if I'd had a mentor, if I'd had someone who could have said, hold up, let's look at what's off. It's not out there, it's in here. How do we identify what that is and go about making the necessary adjustments so that you feel better? Because the world is going to be the world. And there's no magic wand that's going to fix it. You know, the way things are in the United States right now is a big old mess. And as difficult as those things are, we still get to be successful. And we are responsible for that as individuals. And so, you know, there are going to be barriers and there are going to be things that come up, but excusing it over here or excusing it over there doesn't take you off the hook. And so that was my experience. I look back on some of the nonsense that I had to deal with. And at the time, I just powered through. You know, you sort of put your head down and you put your lean in, put your shoulder and push on that door until you get through it. But I want to be able to, my focus, the coaching that I do really can help anyone. It you know, what I realize is that I have chosen Black female entrepreneurs, heart-centered, driven women to be my focus. But truthfully, what I teach and what I talk about and what I share with people is for everyone. You know, it's not a conversation that is limited, but I feel like my sisters, my tribe, we are ones that tend to get left on the outskirts of the outskirts. And part of it is because, you know, we sort of walk underneath the banner of the strong Black woman, which is a stereotype, and it can be damaging, you know, if we aren't taking care of ourselves. And so, you know, what I want to do is empower women to really get clear about what's right for you. You get to define that for you. Don't look over your shoulder. Don't look at your neighbor's paper. You know, take the time and figure it out for yourself, what that looks like for you, because that's where the real joy lies.
Wow. This has been, we could just end it right here. This is like so powerful. I admire what you're saying, and that you're living it and you're not letting things that could very well be impediments, like you're rising up and you're going, yeah, but what can I do? Like, yes, that sucks. That's not right. But what can I do?
Right.
That's to me, that's leadership.
And it's more than what can I do? It's like, what do I want to create? You know, because as human beings, we are all creators. So it's not that I just have to put up with this and I don't, you know, it's not just, you know, get along, you know, to, you know, get along to get along. It's about being clear about where am I going? How am I going to get there? And why? And without the why, none of it matters. So, that's the other thing I do is I help people really define their why. That big why is what drives us. And a lot of times we stop at the easy stuff. Why do you want to be wealthy? Well, or why do you want to raise, or why do you want whatever it is that you want? Why do you want the red car? Well, I like the way it looks. Well, why do you like the way it looks? Well, because my neighbor has one. Why is that important that your neighbor has a red car, that you like the way it looks? Well, my neighbor is wealthy. Well, what does that mean about the red car and the way it looks in your neighbor being wealthy? Well, it's a symbol of wealth. And so I feel that if I can purchase that red car without debt, that means I've made a level of wealth for myself that allows me to have that extravagant purchase without thought. How did we get from a red car to making an extravagant purchase without thought? The idea that's driving you is not the red car, it's what that means. And what is important to you at this moment is to be able to not have debt and to be able to make purchases without worrying about its impact.
Again, back to values. It's like, what do you value?
That's exactly right. And your values are your GPS. They keep you directed. They keep you on track. You get to look at the shiny objects as they pass across your path and go, whoops, that's nice, but it doesn't fall in line with what's important to me, so I can pass on that.
I had a buddy of mine, I started this when I told you before we got on camera 2 years ago, I got the idea for this, and it took me 6 months to pull the trigger. But I chatted with my buddy Mel Cario, who passed away 4 or 5 months ago now, and he's a big part of the support mechanism of why I started this in the beginning. And he took me through his values course, and he was coached by one of the two, either I'm not sure it was IFC or the other coaching, the major one. But he took me through and knowing I keep my values on my flipping phone.
Yeah,
there's my values:
good
truth,
you.
self-mastery, challenge, excellence, and then the creativity, connection, generosity, leadership. I keep them right in front of me, so I know my values at all times, because that is, like you said, that's my
What are your top
GPS.
three? What are your top three?
These are actually in order. So truth, self-mastery, and challenge. So I always want to know what's the truth of something. I want to self-master myself so that I can actually be of use in the planet. And I want to challenge this shit out of any excuse I ever give, or any box that society, religion, politics, medical, whatever, vaccines. I want to challenge everything to go, if this is true, this will not apologize me pushing back. Or if God really loves me, I'm allowed to push back, because what loving parent gets mad at a 4-year-old for asking questions because it wants to know? So I challenge everything.
Very good. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Okay, so values. You take your clients through this explorative. Okay, and there we go. There's a Thelma in the background.
Yep. There she is.
Okay, so what is your goal with your coaching then? So you've hung up your hat as a veterinary dermatologist.
Yeah.
So you're hung that hat up. Now you've been coaching for 10 years, and now you're going to go more full-time into it?
Full-time, because when I was running my practice, I wasn't doing it full-time. I had a few clients here and there. I coached family and friends, and you know how that goes. But every chance I got, I did. It was awesome. And so I thought, well, I'll try. I want to try my hand at doing this more, to be able to reach more people, and to honestly to help folks that that might be like me or have a similar journey like mine that are a little stuck and need some help. Because I needed back when that all happened, it was I've probably been in practice about 10 years maybe. And I tell people I felt like I was in the middle of the ocean in a boat without a paddle and no land in sight. I just didn't know what to do. And I sort of found my way back to land, but it was a tough journey. It was a beautiful journey because I would not have gone through that had I not gotten to that place. But it doesn't have to be that hard. It's a journey, but it doesn't have to be as hard as it was for me. It's already hard enough without had I had a guide, when I hit that wall, had I had a guide, it would have at least been, less painful.
So now you're that Sherpa for others. You can guide them.
To be. I want to be.
Well, this has been Pat White. This has been an absolute blast having you on ENTV today. I love your heart, your passion, and the whole talk of values. It brings me back to, my own journey of learning and why I even built this, and remembering Mel and the importance he told me. He's like, Amos, you must cling to your values, because if you don't defend your values, then you'll be upside down basically, and then you'll find that you've built a life that's not even built on the foundation that's really you. Yeah. And then you'll loathe yourself, you'll hate your life because you're not leading with what is your true north.
Right, that's it. You nailed it. Nailed it.
ENTV today, if you've been watching Pat White, Patricia White, please reach out to her. She'd love to connect with you. Pat, I'm relaunching our networking events, and anyone that I've interviewed is welcome to be on one of those. So we'll chat about that off camera, but I'm going to launch those again before the end of the month. And you can come on and meet 5, 10, 20 people at once. They get broadcasted live, so you get exposure in the group. And you can come and meet some other cool people if you're interested. Just be aware yeah, okay. We'll end it here then. ENTV, thanks for watching. And Pat White, thanks for being on. This was a real gift today.
Yeah, thanks, Amos. I've loved it. This was fun.
And please make sure, Pat, you drop any links after in the comment section. I'll tag you so you can find the interview, and we'll go from there.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Okay.